On this week's show, Disney coming to HoloLens, and Jason's happy because Howard the Duck and Escape from Monkey Island's not off the books. All this and more in episode 96 of the Inside Infinity podcast.
What's up, guys? This is John Vignocchi, executive producer on Disney Infinity, and you are listening to Inside Infinity, the first official Disney Infinity podcast on the net.
Do you like Disney as much as we like Disney? Of course you do, or you wouldn't be listening to an Infinity podcast. Well, if you like them as much as we do, you should head on over to MediaMeltdownPodcast.com and look for the Mousecast, a weekly all things Disney podcast, co-hosted by the one and only Stephen C., friend of the show, friend of mine. They talk about Disney news, Disney theme parks, Disney rumors, all things Disney. So if you like Disney as much as we like Disney, head over to MediaMeltdownPodcast.com, look for the Mousecast. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode number 96 of the Inside Infinity podcast. I'm one of your two hosts, Will Kelly. Joining me once again this week is Mr. Jason Haynes. Jason, how are you doing, buddy?
G'day, Will. It's been a couple of weeks. Good to be back, I suppose.
It has been, what, it's been 2 weeks?
Yep.
Yeah, it's but last week we had Lloyd on, who did a great job in your stead, but we are definitely glad to have you back.
I'm glad to be back.
Like to say hello to everyone who is joining us in the chat room this evening. We got lots of friends in there. We have TJ from the Pixar Post. Saw Inside Out the other day, my friend, and it was awesome. We have the one and only Pirate Steven. What's up, buddy? JB, welcome back. Samirian, good seeing you, Stephen C. The Baroness, Wildlife, and Zombamania. So welcome everyone who is joining us this week live. If you'd like to watch us live, you can do that each and every Monday evening, 8 p.m. Mountain Time. Just head over to twitch.tv/Disney Infinity TV, and you can watch us and chat with us. Jason, we have a little bit of news this week. Not a ton, but we have some stuff to talk about, and that is always fun. But before we do that, have you been playing some Disney Infinity lately?
I feel like I have. I started building Castle Grayskull yesterday on the live stream, but my mind's all over the place at the moment. Don't know what I'm building. I keep coming up with cool little experiments I'd like to try. So, but yes, that's what I've been doing. And but not a ton, I must admit. A bit of 2.0 toy box fatigue setting in with all the upcoming 3.0 updates. It's kind of like when you have a really good idea, you're like, do I want to build that now, or should I just wait and use it in 3.0? So, but nonetheless, it's all fun. Obviously, I'm not going to the summit, so there's no practice required.
That's true. Sadly, you didn't make the cut.
No, that's all right.
To the summit, but we will have representation there. Sad you won't be joining us from across the pond.
And I couldn't be more excited about the other Logic pros that will be attending. So it's a good thing in the end because I won't have to be shown up as the hack that I am.
No, you do awesome. I love you have so many ideas. You're even contemplating having to not build stuff in 2.0 just so you could possibly build it in 3.0, which I think is pretty.
Of course,
pretty funny.
I'm always excited about it. So,
thinking ahead.
That's right.
Well, sadly, I'm not playing any Infinity either. What you can't see with my green screen up is that my office / studio, if you want to call it that, it's full of stuff. I'm packing, I'm moving houses. Good news is the new place does have a dedicated podcasting area, but the reason I'm bringing this up is because my awesome glass cabinet that's it's essentially my Infinity Shrine is completely bare and empty right now. I showed Jason before the show started, and it saddens me because I like having my Infinity characters and figures around me when I podcast, but that's okay.
I think the audience wants to know, though, is the bed going to make the move? And will that be a staple of the background shot?
The bed will no longer be a part of the podcast background. Sorry to disappoint.
Well, make sure you get some nostalgic photos so that we can look back with a montage of the bed
Too
come
funny.
episode 200.
I will do
Perhaps.
that. I will absolutely do that. But yeah, so Jason's not going to the summit. He did not make the toy box cut, but that's not the only way you can make it to the toy box. You can actually, and we discussed this last week, you can make a video. You can submit that video and tell everyone why you love the toy box. And you could possibly be entered. And we want to show one of those off tonight, since our good friend from Media Meltdown Podcast is in the chat with us. So Steve and his daughter and Sarah, who've been on the show quite frequently, they made a video, and it's just hilarious, and I just absolutely love it. So I want to play it here. Sadly, though, there is an age limit, and Lila was a little bit too young, but that doesn't make the video any less. So if you're looking for inspiration out there, here's an awesome example of a submitted video.
Oh, hi, my name is Lila Cullen. You may recognize me from these pictures that Johnny V liked last year.
What's your favorite toy box?
My favorite toy box is the Haunted Mansion Disneyland because...
Your controller, ma'am.
Thank you. It's my favorite ride at Disneyland, and I'm really good at it.
Who's your favorite character?
My favorite character is Nova because he has blue flames, and you can play as him in the Guardians of the Galaxy playset.
And why do you deserve to be in the Disney Infinity Tournament?
I deserve to be in the Disney Infinity Tournament because I have every artist, every playset.
You're a player,
Thank
ma'am.
you. And every character, and I've been playing it since Disney Infinity 1.0 first came out. So that's why you should choose me to be in the Disney Infinity Tournament. And I have races. Father, Red Bull?
No, I'm not really scared of her. She doesn't scare me.
Dad, Red Bull now!
Okay, so there you have it. That was absolutely adorable. Good job to the Krellin family. My Jice in the chat, Laura, is saying, "Oh, Steve C, this was so cute," and it was freaking adorable. I love Lila as the Infinity Princess and Steve as the Infinity Butler. That was hilarious. So just want to show that off. We're really sorry that Lila was too young, but maybe next year she will be old enough to make the cut. Because
She's not the only one. This accent actually cost me a place to get in on that action myself. So
that's because you're Australian, or
apparently, I think so. I don't think I was the only accent that was cut out of the eligibility to enter to get into the summit, but there it is.
That's too funny. I don't know if that's true. Everyone loves your accent, and then yeah.
It's no, that doesn't matter though. What's it matter if you can't have a second chance of getting to the summit?
Oh, too funny, too funny. Well, maybe next year for you as well. So that's Steve C's daughter for her entrance into the Toy Box Summit video. Jason, what do you think? Should we talk a little bit of talk about some Infinity news?
Sure, look forward to it.
So for those that don't know, Jason and I are part of, and actually so is the show, is part of the Res.TV network. And we have some really cool stuff going on over there. So if you like other video games and other video-related content, we've recently merged with Media Meltdown Podcast as well. Check them out. But the reason I bring this up is because a couple weeks ago, Jason and I were on a podcast with Lloyd. And it was an E3 podcast. For those that don't know, E3 stands for the Electronics Entertainment Expo. And it's a yearly video game industry conference, essentially. And that is where the biggest video game announcements and news kind of takes place. One of the things that Microsoft showed off this year, and one of the things that Lloyd, Jason, and I, we were all just like, how cool is this? Is HoloLens. It's Microsoft HoloLens. And what a HoloLens is, it's not virtual reality, but it is a headset, kind of like a virtual reality headset that shows off augmented reality. For those that don't know what augmented reality is, it is essentially augmenting what you can see in the real world. So in this situation, you are looking through a clear lens that displays stuff on screen that you can either interact with or just view. And what Microsoft showed off at the their E3 conference was HoloLens in Minecraft. Which is pretty awesome just in and of itself, even if you're not a Minecraft fan. But of course, Jason's first thought, being a toy box artist, well, why don't you tell people, Jason?
About what I think about HoloLens with Disney Infinity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a couple of ways to look at it. One, obviously, it makes a lot of sense. The idea of toys coming to life makes a lot of sense in a HoloLens situation. I love the idea about being able to look at a kitchen table, a bed, or whatever, and have those toys come to life and actually, again, feel like true to life toys coming to life. I think that's super cool. If they're interactive, all that sort of stuff. I think that really makes a lot of sense. Even the active, like it'd be really cool if literally you put the figure down on the base and you see almost like, like when they portray people who are dying in movies and they're like the sort of the spirit separates themselves from the physical body. Having that sort of an animation where when you put the physical character down, it literally comes to life, jumps off the portal base and just does whatever it does. I think that's kind of cool. On the other side of things, though, and I've heard a lot of chatter about this post that Minecraft thing, it's got to make sense. Like, it doesn't necessarily make sense gameplay-wise to do what they were doing with HoloLens. So it'd have to be, in my mind, it would be something like the Toy Box Games discs that's specifically designed for a HoloLens situation. Because it doesn't make sense for me building a toy box, because part of the advantage of the toy box is that you can fix cameras and you can fix a camera for a 2D platformer. You know what I mean? It's just got to be built specifically for that purpose. It's not like you could just shoehorn HoloLens into the game as it exists currently.
So just so I can understand what you're saying. So you're saying that its application would be great for building, but not for playing in? Not directing the experience. Yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
I'm saying not every toy box experience would translate into a fully 3D thing that you're moving around, because some toy boxes are all their premises based on fixed cameras. For instance, like the Star Tours toy box that I built with Mighty Gitus would make zero sense with HoloLens, because you're seeing how the sausage is made, so to speak. You're seeing all the different planets scattered around the toy box, so that doesn't make sense for a HoloLens experience.
Absolutely.
Might make sense for a virtual reality experience to be able to experience the ride in a virtual reality space, but you know what I mean? So there's different applications. But in saying that, again, if you focused on this whole concept of playing with toys, there could definitely be a game mode or an area of Disney Infinity where it would make a lot of sense.
Totally, absolutely. So why are we discussing this? This is not a Minecraft show. This is an Infinity show. So during E3, I actually was talking to Patrick Papa Echo just about the show in general and all the gaming news. He's a gamer just like we are. And I was like, man, how about that HoloLens? And he's like, totally. And of course, he's a toy box artist, so he's like, that'd be so cool in Infinity. And not to say that he was just commenting how cool HoloLens was, but it was really cool. I texted him this week about this article that I'm referring to, and I'll have the link in the show notes. It's on a tech blog, Engadget, and basically it says Disney Infinity might make its way to Microsoft HoloLens. It is an article about Infinity and virtual reality and alternate reality. It's an interview with John Blackburn, and he's discussing many things about Infinity and his experience with VR and AR. But what's really interesting about this is here at the bottom he says, which is why Blackburn hinted that if Infinity were to pick a side in the VR versus AR battle, it'd likely come as a HoloLens project. So as an AR, manipulating the world in which you are viewing, not necessarily showing you a three-dimensional representation of that world first person, which is what virtual reality normally is. And kind of an interesting thing with this is that right now the only AR headset we know of that's like this, Jason, is made by Microsoft. And obviously Sony has a really close connection with Infinity. So it would be interesting that if AR did come to Infinity or Infinity came to HoloLens, how that relationship would kind of take shape.
I honestly think I can't see it happening anytime soon.
Yeah.
Just everyone's talking about how expensive that HoloLens is going to be. It's not the kind of thing I just want to let my kids just throw on their head. And even though I say it's pretty cool, Even down to the point of just like I can imagine just seeing Spider-Man wall crawl your bedroom wall or
Yeah.
whatever. Like, it's got great application and kids would love it, but I could just see my kids fighting over whose turn it is,
Right.
splitting it in half, money down the drain.
Well, which goes back to Infinity. I mean, the figures themselves are for the most part pretty strong, and they can take a beating. There's a few characters here and there, and so yeah, that's quite the dichotomy with those figures and this potentially fragile, expensive
I'm sure
investment.
we'll see an Infinity tech demo, though, I'm sure, at
Yeah.
some point, just like that Minecraft one.
Well, and the other interesting thing is you brought it up, Jason. It has a very specific application within the game. I'm sure they could make it work with just playing as well. But if you take the example of the Minecraft, even that wasn't really playing the game. It was more just uh, looking at it as an audience member,
See,
a spectator, not simply or not an interactive
and
member.
because the other thing to know about HoloLens is the actual viewable area is apparently only about the size of a pack of cards.
Yeah, it's pretty small, which has been a
So
complaint.
it's not like if it was a full view thing, you could see that there would be an application for like creating character meet and greet situations with the Disney Infinity characters. But with a viewport that small, that's not going to happen.
Well, that's still slightly bigger than Romulus' suggestion, as each kid gets a hollow monocle, which is hilarious. Steve C is saying he wants his Virtual Boy back. Yeah, let's have Infinity in all shades of red. Oh, too funny. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, you're right, Jason. If this happens, it's not happening anytime soon.
I Disney Infinity 5.0 at best.
Yeah, at best. Yep. Well, cool. So that's the first bit of news, but I think this next bit, Jason's actually going to make you even more excited because you made something not too long ago, a little mock-up of a playset. Do you remember of a long lost franchise of one of your favorites? You know
Monkey
which one?
Island.
Monkey Island. So who owns Monkey Island, or who owns that IP?
That was a
Arts.
Lucas Arts
Hmm.
game. So yes, it is owned by Lucas, I guess, in general, and I believe it to be well. I know it to be the case that Disney now own the rights to all of those classic adventure games, and I think it's probably mentioned in the article that that through that ownership, we're getting a remake of Day of the Tentacle, which
Yep.
is a sequel to Maniac Mansion, which is again all Lucas based content.
Yeah, so this article is coming at you from Polygon, a pretty big video gaming blog. And as the title reads, Howard the Duck, and I know that's going to make a ton of people excited. Indiana Jones, Secret of Monkey Island, nothing's off the table for Disney Infinity. Honestly, I think the headline's slightly misleading, but nonetheless, it essentially says no LucasArts IP is off the table. So this is an interview with a few different people, one of which is Ada Dewan, Vice President of Business and Franchise Management at Lucasfilm. So obviously Lucasfilm is now a part of Disney, but Lucasfilm and LucasArts has its own IPs, and so it sounds like that management is still somewhat separate and independent. And so the interviewee is asking, the interviewer is asking about long lost properties that the studio owns. And Ada responds, "Are you thinking about Howard the Duck?" Which is pretty obscure, but fan favorite. I don't know how Infinity appropriate that is. I could probably add him to the Death or Deadpool pool. Um, but yeah, so JV and John Blackburn are in this interview with Ada. And in terms of Star Wars content, there's definitely more Star Wars coming. What these guys have been saying about Infinity is that it's a platform for all the IP across the company, Star Wars being part of that. You'll see more as more movies and TV shows are coming out. They'll continue to evaluate and support what Infinity would kind of be a good fit for as Lucas comes out with more IP, more Star Wars. It's kind of an interesting article, though, because here's what it was saying about Day of the Tentacle, Jason, is that this is something that is not relevant today. But for any longtime gamer, this is something that is relevant, and it harkens back to what's said about Howard the Duck and Indiana Jones and Secret of Monkey Island. I'll be like, please, can we do Secret of Monkey Island? Vignocchi said. And then she'll say, can we talk about how relevant this is? There are so many other things we can do. And that's where your heart kind of breaks, right? That's where I kind of think the title might be slightly misleading. What do you think, Jason?
Yeah, look, I don't know. There's so many levels that this stuff go. I think I've mentioned it before on the show about how, like, even this morning I was listening to a podcast about how Disney are rebooting all of their old animations into live action films like Cinderella and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, how important and how relevant are the original Disney cartoons anymore? And it's that question of like, is there room in Disney Infinity to go, okay, Star Wars Episode 7 playset is going to be a breadwinner.
Mm-hmm.
Can we slip some fan service stuff under the radar? Like Darkwing Duck.
Yeah.
Everyone's, scrambling for Darkwing Duck. But it's like, well, how relevant is he? My kids don't know who Darkwing Duck is. And so, like, at some point, though, isn't it cool to get that fan service by releasing these under the radar, franchises?
Yeah, so it's funny you mentioned Darkwing Duck. So in the same article, they say we have so much new content coming out, so it's natural that they want to support upcoming things. But then it says ultimately the decision to push something from an older property versus a new property into Infinity is driven by fan feedback. And that's JV says this in quotes. We're listening to the fans, he said. We do the Facebook fan stuff all the time. We do these informal polls, and they wind up in the senior executive meetings with guys throwing stuff around and yelling at each other. Okay, this is what the fan poll said we should be doing. These are the characters. And then he says, that's how I lost Darkwing Duck to Olaf this year. That's so heartbreaking.
But at the same time, though, it's like you're asking the fans of Disney Infinity, that's fine, but you're sort of alienating the people that could become fans by not approaching these things. Like, if you look, and I can't remember what it was it PlayStation Experience? I think that they announced the Day of the Tentacle remake, and it got a huge response.
Yeah.
Like, probably one of the biggest responses out of anything, and that's a remake of a game. So if you were to announce a Day of the Tentacle sequel, and you got the tentacles as figures or whatnot, didn't matter what, if it's coming with figures, you have that opportunity to actually convert this entire audience over, because it kind of makes sense as a platform. Is the sale of a figure, is the sale of a game in the form of a play set enough to make it valuable, viable to produce that game, versus a Day of the Tentacle 2 sequel might not stand on its own,
right?
But it might exist with a little bit of a propping up of an Episode 8 playset combined with, as I say, adding all those click adventure fans out there would be, I don't know what the market's like, but we saw that the latest Double Fine adventure was one of the highest Kickstarter backed projects out there, so there's clearly an audience out there for adventure type games.
Yeah, Evil Lost in the chat is saying Olaf equals more money than Darkwing Duck, and hopefully
it's a sad truth.
Yeah,
it's a sad truth.
It is.
But that's what I'm saying. Surely Disney can, throw us old school Disney fans a bone when they're making bank on the other sections of the game.
Well, and we've discussed this at length on the show. Disney, they recognize that in 2.0 they didn't bring enough diversity, had a huge amount of diversity in movesets of the superheroes, so gameplay character improvements were much more diverse, but there wasn't enough diversity in the play sets and the gameplay they had. So this time around they wanted to make sure play sets bring much more diversity, and that's, to me, that's very apparent given, just take a look at the Inside Out play set. I mean, that's, to me, all you need to see that in the kart racing to argue the diversity comment.
Definitely. So anyway, we'll see. They keep. I mean, as far as I can tell, some of those characters still show up in the park. So clearly, it's just a numbers game, I guess, in the day. But let's put it this way: there will come a time when they will be running out. The fans clearly, if now that the fans know that we just missed out on Darkwing Duck, I personally didn't vote on Darkwing Duck. I think I might have
Did you
voted
vote
on
for
Captain
Olaf?
EO or something. I can't remember. Certainly
Yeah.
wasn't Olaf. So I can put my vote in the right place this time, and hopefully we can get it across the line.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. You gotta kind of have to think big picture on what of the obscure characters what are most likely to be chosen by the masses.
It can't be easy. This bench is so deep, as we've heard. Like personally, and I'm sorry if I offend anyone, I'd much prefer Scrooge McDuck over Darkwing Duck, as long as he's got that pogo bouncing action.
Yeah,
like
was that from his cane?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So who knows?
Well,
What's exciting is that there's always going to be exciting characters every version of Disney
Yeah.
Infinity.
that's true, especially, and that's what's so kind of crazy is that the back catalog is just so amazing, but
Yeah.
we also have all of these relatively new IPs to pick from. Anything in the
And
Lucas.
I think we're honestly going to see that big time in 4.0 because there's not going to be that tentpole release.
Yeah.
There's not a catch-up period if we've got to get all these Star Wars figures out the gate. It's only going to be Episode 8 and Rogue One, possibly that they have to cover. No, probably almost Rogue One.
Mm-hmm.
There's like, well, we introduce 3 or 4 figures from that movie, and then there's another 15 figures they got to fill. So I think we'll see a lot of backdating in 4.0, which
Yep.
is super exciting.
Totally. Last little bit of this article I want to mention, Jason, because to me it kind of is the end all be all for this discussion, and it's only midway through the article. This is the criteria the team generally uses. Vignocchi said, "How relevant is it to people? How popular is the character? What's the gameplay going to be?" So, I mean that's a pretty good criteria as far as criteria is concerned, in my opinion, because you have one major aspect being gameplay, which is required because it's a video game after all, and then the popularity of the character, and then how relevant is it. And so I think those two things might be where you and I might have differing opinions from many others out there. But yeah, like you said, maybe 4.0 when there isn't a tentpole property behind it, we might get those more obscure characters, but we are getting a lot diverse Disney characters this time around as well.
And we certainly haven't heard all of the released characters yet either.
Yep.
We know. What are we doing? 3.0.
3.0.
So
I had to think about it too, actually.
I'm hoping there's some nice surprises still to come on the Disney front, but we'll see.
Yeah. This article is amazing. I definitely recommend you take a look at it. It's on Polygon. It will be in the show notes. It discusses everything from lightsaber combat to improvements in Jack Sparrow. So it's just it's a great article, and it was a surprise when I read it last week.
Also, I will mention, just remember that Tim Schafer actually did favorite my tweet about Monkey Island, so he clearly likes the idea. So come on, fans, let's make it happen.
Yes, love it. Cool. All right, Jason, last bit of news for the day, and this will be a real quick one. It's just quirky. I read this on DizKingdom.com, and this was actually from a very brief article from videogamer.com discussing about Disney Infinity 2.0 was almost delayed by Moz. So I guess this is just funny. It's anecdotal I wanted to mention. 2.0 was almost delayed because the entire ship not the entire ship, but containers adjacent to the Disney Infinity 2.0 housed containers had these Asian gypsy moths. So the whole ship had to be sent out to sea and fumigated, and they were kind of concerned that 2.0 games were not going to make it to in people's hands and on store shelves long enough. I bet that's what happened to Steve C's long lost collector's edition. So, well, cool, buddy. That's going to wrap up this week's show. Do you have anything else you want to leave the group with before we kind of end things tonight?
No, I don't think so. No, don't think so. We'll save it. We've still got plenty of podcasting left before this thing ends.
It's
before
true.
3.0, I should say.
That's true. Yep. We're on episode number 97 right now, and We're not going to have a roundtable this week. We're kind of saving that. We're going to have a very, very special roundtable coming up in the very near future. Stay tuned on when that is, because I'm not sure if it's going to be next week, the week after, or possibly even the week after that. But we're trying to plan something special for everyone coming up. And we're still working on some summit plans too. So that's just a little tease to make up for our lack of roundtable this week. So no matter what, even if we don't have our special guest next week, we'll make sure we have a roundtable. So I'd like to thank everyone who joined us live this week. Again, you can do that at twitch.tv/Disney Infinity TV. We had a great group, great conversation in there talking about all those long lost properties and talking about HoloLens. And it's just always fun having those conversations. So we appreciate everyone who joined us this week. Jason, want to thank you. It was good having you back again.
Yes, good to be back, and happy birthday for, when was it? A few days ago?
Thanks. You sent me an awfully nice tweet, and it caught me off guard because normally you're Mr. Grumpy Pants, and I was like, oh, it kind of brought a little tear to my eye.
I might have been lying. It might have been sarcastic.
It's true.
Too happy about it.
Oh, too funny.
Couldn't convey the tone.
I appreciate it. So
yeah.
Well, all right, everyone. Well, thanks again for watching us this week. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Inside Infinity podcast. Make sure you look for us next week. But until then, we hope your week is filled with infinite possibilities. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Inside Infinity podcast. Please look for us on Twitter and Facebook. Join our Facebook group. Also look for us on youtube.com/Disney Infinity TV and subscribe to our partner network, res.tv, and that's youtube.com/ResTV.